It's time to explore the world according to Glenn. I'm Kevin Jacobsen. Glenn Close is my favorite actress, and this show is all about exploring the career of one of the finest actors of her generation. Each episode, I'll be joined by a guest as we dive into one of Glenn's movies, TV shows, or stage productions, going chronologically through her career, discussing her performance, and assessing the project itself. And today, we're talking Glenn's scene-stealing performance in the gothic horror drama Mary Reilly.
Time nominee Glenn Close, motherfuckers.
My guest today, I am so excited to be podcasting with for the very first time. He's a film and television editor and co-hosts the podcast, The Mixed Reviews, and The Q Division. Welcome to the show, Gavin Mevius.
Hello, Kevin. I am a longtime listener, first-time caller. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited that our paths are finally crossing.
Absolutely.
Yes, it's been a long time coming, but who knew that a movie like Mary Reilly would bring us together, right?
Yeah, it truly did. You know, I often think to myself, what can really rally the troops? What can bring us all together as a community? And it's 1996's Stephen Frears Mary Reilly.
Yes, definitely the movie from 1996 that everyone loves from Glenn.
Absolutely, yeah. The height of achievement for Glenn Close. Oh, poor Glenn Close.
Absolutely. Well, before we talk Glenn in Mary Reilly, would love to know your relationship with Glenn overall, and if you remember when you first saw her, what you like about her, and your favorite performance, whatever you want to say about her.
It's funny because I have definitely been thinking about this since I started listening to your show when you started, and I was like, what is my first exposure to Glenn Close? And it can't just be the cameo and Hook. But I am of a certain age, so I did see a lot of movies inappropriately as a child because I was listening to the episode you did with Chels, the Serving in Silence episode, and she brought up that she had seen Fatal Attraction way too young, and I was like, I also probably saw Fatal Attraction way too young, but I think my true introduction was probably Dangerous Liaisons, which is also child inappropriate.
Yes, a little bit, perhaps.
Movie about sex and deceit, but I've loved Dangerous Liaisons forever, and that episode you did with Sophia, correct? Yeah,
love
great.
That.
I fucking love Sophia. If I can swear.
Yes, you can.
Everything about that movie is so delicious, and so the costumes, the dialogue, Glenn's performance, I mean, the famous freakout scene. And I think that just really gave me the idea of who I thought Glenn Close was for a really long time. And obviously I saw a lot of the more, I don't know. I don't think Mertoy is that showy, but it is a showier because by nature, it's a showier movie. You know, it's a period piece. Everybody's in these fabulous costumes and whatnot. So I think I didn't get to see Glenn Close, like the kind of burrowed deep down Glenn Close until much later. One of the films that I love that she's in that I think goes sort of undersung is the 1997 Christopher Reeve directed In the Gloaming, which I know is coming up for you because you're moving chronologically. And I also saw that movie very young. It can't be that young. It was 1997, but I was at least in my early teens, and I remember we had stolen HBO. We had HBO we did not pay for, and I remember watching it on HBO and being just really amazed with all the performances and Christopher Reeve's direction, but specifically her performance. It is a really tough role and a really fascinating, withdrawn performance. And so I think that was maybe my she has levels. She has so many levels that I did not realize just based off of, Fatal Attraction and Dangerous Liaisons. but yeah, so I've really loved her for a long time, and I think she's just really fantastic.
Wow. I love that. And that must have been so fun to not fun or interesting, I should say, to watch that like as a family in the gloaming when you were a teen.
Oh, and a closeted.
Just based on the subject matter there. Yeah.
I did not come out till a lot later too. So but that was never, I grew up, I love to say, you know, I'm sure they would all be considered neoliberals nowadays, but I grew up in a pretty liberal household. We were poor, so we didn't really have much choice. Yeah. But to be liberal, conservativeness is a rich person's game, and that's never been my life. So like there were never a lot of barriers when it came to talking about race or gender or sexuality, and I didn't grow up in a household that had a lot of those prejudices. I did, you know, as an adult find out that like everybody has their own minor or recessed prejudices that you sort of have to deal with and get out, but never overt. And I grew up in upstate New York, which is actually, I don't think a lot of people think about it as being particularly conservative, but it is. And every time I go back there, you kind of feel that, especially as a queer person, you kind of feel that like, oh, I'm not wanted here, which is a fun thing. Like people, I it's hard explaining that to some of my straight friends who are like, yeah, we grew up in a great place. And I'm like, did we? Is that what you thought about
I'm happy for you that you had that experience. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I feel like we just got so much of a peek into your life there, Gavin.
I know. I'm sorry.
We barely even started. I love it.
I'm a talker. I apologize.
No, it's great. No, it's better than the opposite. Well, to speak to your seeing Dangerous Liaisons so young, we will now be discussing a bit of a reunion moment for a lot of the people involved there, and perhaps a movie that not as many people rate as highly as Dangerous Liaisons, but we will get into it.
I would love to meet the person who rates this as high as Dangerous Liaisons or higher, you know?
Right. Yeah. Who knows? But let's just get right into it and talk about how Glenn got involved with Mary Reilly. So for starters, this is an adaptation of the 1990 novel of the same name by Valerie Martin, which reimagines the classic horror story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde through the perspective of his housemaid, Mary Reilly, a young Irish woman who develops a fascination with both Jekyll and Hyde. So this adaptation went through quite a bit of turmoil behind the scenes. It was first optioned by the producers John Peters and Peter Guber in 1989, so before the novel was even released, with Roman Polanski set to direct. Yes. It then went to Tim Burton, which makes sense.
Yeah,
right.
Just a one-to-one line, guys. From Roman Polanski to Tim Burton, always coming up in the same conversations.
Right. Yes. So he actually officially signed on to direct in 93 with a script by Christopher Hampton, and he was going to film it with his muse, Winona Ryder, in the lead role, but he had a falling out with producers and quit the project. And so then Stephen Frears came on with the hope of getting Daniel Day-Lewis and Uma Thurman. But that obviously didn't work out either. So anyway, Stephen ultimately got his old Dangerous Liaison star, John Malkovich, to play Jekyll and Hyde, and Julia Roberts was attached to play Mary Reilly. So I couldn't find much about Glenn's casting in the role or even that many quotes, but she did say in one article from 94 that she was giggling over the perversity of the project and said, "It's very dark, very disturbing." So that's about all I got from that. But we could definitely surmise that a huge part of her casting was that she was reuniting with the team from Dangerous Liaisons, with Stephen Frears directing, Christopher Hampton script, John Malkovich co-star, even the producer, Norma Heyman. So
yeah, it is sort of wild that this is the film we got with a reteaming of that team, because as I previously stated, I really love Dangerous Liaisons and have seen many versions of it sort of fail as well. But like, you know, there's so many different factors here. You know, there's so many different versions of the script that were rewritten. There's so many directors that passed through. I feel like they hired Stephen Frears not for the fact that he was previously teamed with most of these people. I feel like he was hired because he was safe. And there was a point in time, you know, the on the mixed reviews, what we do is we look at a filmography we try and get as much as we can from beginning to end. And prior to even me doing the mixed reviews, I remember at one point, I think it was maybe after I saw The Queen, I was much younger, please forgive me. I was like, maybe I should see all of Stephen Frear's movies. And then I saw a couple more and I was like, I don't need to do that.
Right.
Yeah. And that's why I think of him as kind of a safe director. Like he has style. Is it a style I can be like, oh, that's Stephen Frear's? No, not really. And
right.
You know, he's like a very decent workman director, and there's a great place for there's a lot of workman directors I really like, but I rarely like look at a Stephen Frears film and I'm like, oh my god, this classics Frears, oh my god.
Victoria and Abdul. Let's go.
Exactly. A movie I have not seen because it falls into that, like, do I have to do this canon?
Exactly. Yeah. And he has a lot of, to your point, he's a very much journeyman, workman like. Yeah. Very much that. But anyway, Glenn, for her part, this role is relatively minor. She gets about 3 or 4 scenes, but she's playing the scene-stealing role of Mrs. Faraday, a local madam who is kind of tussling with Dr. Jekyll. So to get into a quick plot description here, Mary Reilly, set in the 1800s in London, and centers on Mary Reilly, played by Julia Roberts, an Irish housemaid who has scars on her neck and hand after a traumatic childhood incident with her father. So she works for Dr. Jekyll, played by John Malkovich, to whom she is very devoted. And so eventually Jekyll announces to Mary and the rest of the staff working for him that he's taking on an assistant, Mr. Hyde, who has free reign to come in and out of the house as he pleases and basically don't disturb him. So then Mary is kind of curious about Hyde and has a few interactions with him that intrigue her, as he's much more like primal and animalistic towards her compared to the more refined Dr. Jekyll. So Hyde goes about terrorizing the local community, making a bloody mess at the local brothel that is owned by Glenn's character, Mrs. Faraday. And Mary finds herself drawn to both Jekyll and Hyde, not realizing for an alarmingly long time that they are, in fact, the same person, and gradually uncovers the truth. So, yes.
I have so many things to say there. First, first, more than anything else, Chels texted me literally minutes before we started this to say, you have to get Kevin to do his Mary Reilly voice. So I am...
Oh my gosh.
I am not one to disappoint Chels. So Kevin, please do your Mary Reilly voice, because I don't have one.
Okay. Well, I'm going to set something up and lob it back to you. Let's see if I can come up with something. Okay. All right. So, Mary Reilly, let's get into it. I'm so intrigued to see where this conversation goes. So, Gavin, tell me your thoughts on this film, and on film, I should say, as the Irish like to pronounce it.
Yes.
On Glenn's brief and memorable performance here.
I have to say, first of all, yours feels more accurate.
Thank you.
Like, weirdly more Irish than
Sorry, Julia.
Yeah. Glenn. So you're right. Having watched this movie, I was telling you this right before we started. I truly believed I had seen this movie before. And I think what it is once again, talking about Stolen HBO, I think I'd seen the end. I think I'd seen the transformation scene and was like, what the fuck? And had never gone back to. But watching this, I posted on Blue Sky, like, Sally Field voice, 3 scenes for Glenn, because that's all she has in this movie.
I know.
But she is, like you said, Miss Faraday. She's a madam at a local brothel, and she really does. You're right. Scene stealing is a very good way to put it. She kind of has this like snarl on the whole time. She kind of has it like she's gonna purse her lips and like, oh, I'm the one in charge here. That sort of.
Oh, you do accents too.
Oh yeah. Oh, all the time. It's a little embarrassing, and. Yeah, and she just like comes into scenes and kind of like takes charge, and it's really interesting, especially to watch her, because I don't want to say everybody else, because I actually think it's her and Kieran Hines who are doing like the most affected performances, and I think works for this film. But everybody else is doing like real subdued, and so like her first scene with Julia Roberts, I was like, no one was like, we got to level this out, and honestly, I think that Stephen Frears should have been like, Julia, we got to bring it up. like where like Glenn's actually doing the work here, and like
Right.
and then on top of that, she's dressed in these amazing costumes. Her third scene where she shows up at Dr. Jekyll's house, you brought up her theater work before, and I thought she has the most beautiful theatrical instincts, but also knows so much about being on camera. And so my favorite thing that she does in the movie isn't even a line or anything. It's she walks into Dr. Jekyll's house and she turns 3/4 of the way to the camera because she knows that the camera is now hitting her at an angle. And what you're seeing is, and listen, we get enough of queer men objectifying women's bodies in the real world, so I'm not trying to do that. You see this glorious curve of her body that goes out to the bustle of the dress that she's wearing. And I was like, this bitch, so smart. So she's like, I'm in this movie for 10 seconds. You are going to see how amazing I look. Like how truly I am shaped like an S, and you're going to see it. Like it's gorgeous. But outside of that, I don't know. It was one of those things that really struck me because this comes from an era. It mentally sort of always lumped this movie into like the world of, Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula and Kenneth Branagh's Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And I think that's why something like this got greenlit in the time period it did. But nobody talks about Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula to say like, and wow, wasn't Gary Oldman like so good at being withdrawn and like not being over the top and just really no, like they like it because he's doing a lot. Like he and it's the same as as you can love or hate Kenneth Branagh's Frankenstein. I'm more on the hatred, but I think there's some good stuff in there. But like it's all over the top, and that's so everybody doing this, especially Malkovich doing this like real subdued. Like, I'm pretty sure he dropped a Klonopin before every scene. And like, I don't understand it. So I think Glenn is the one person, barring Kieran Hines as well, that's like giving a performance. And maybe Michael Sheen. But it's so early in Michael Sheen's career that it's hard to tell what is a conscious choice and what is like, early. Because I believe this is his first film. He said he'd filmed another beforehand, but this was the first to come out. But like, yeah, I appreciate the heightenedness that Close is going for. And now that you've just listened to me ramble for 30 minutes, Kevin, how did you feel about Glenn Close's performance?
Yeah, I mean, I had never seen Mary Reilly before outside of her clips, mostly because everyone I know who had seen it had said it was dull and that Julia Roberts was like dreadfully miscast. And, people weren't even all that positive on John Malkovich. It just wasn't really considered like a good adaptation of this story. And it's mostly down to the casting. And sadly, I do kind of agree with that. I think like on an idea level, like this is the kind of story that can be fun, the whole twist on a classic tale type of thing. And I could see the vision, especially in Valerie Martin's novel, how this could make it kind of fresh and romantic even, and show how like this young woman is coming of age to a certain degree and like figuring out what she wants. All that stuff is pretty juicy. It's just that the film doesn't really do all that much to explore like why she's even having this disconnect of not recognizing either of them as one and the same, or like even delving that much into her sexuality. I think it kind of hints at that and how like this more animalistic Hyde is awakening something in her, I guess, but it's just also surface level. And that's where it feels like a good companion to another Glenn film we talked about a few weeks ago, which is The House of the Spirits.
Yes.
Which was also considered a very weak adaptation of that book that only kind of skimmed the surface. So it just kind of falls flat for me most of the time. But also, I hate to say it, but Julia Roberts just has no business being in this role.
No.
I love her, but like she is too headstrong. She reads too intelligently as an actress, I think, to really like transform into this meek Irish housemaid type of thing, even at this earlier stage in her career. Like it just does not read. So it's really tough.
Yeah, I don't, to misappropriate Caesar, I come here not to bury Julia Roberts, but to praise her because I do really like Julia Roberts and I have no issue with her. But you're right. This is just not it. We on the Mixed Reviews we often talk about somebody, and this is not a concept we came up with, but somebody whose face looks like they've seen a cell phone.
Right.
And and Julia Roberts is very much that. She just is not a period piece. And they give her the bad version of the Rosemary's Baby's haircut in the movie, and but you're right. I think you hit on something really important in there too. Is it does all feel very surface level, and we know Christopher Hampton can write. And we know he can deal subtext, and none of that subtext is here. There's nothing here explaining to us why Mary Reilly is attracted to Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde, and there's lip service being held to her very traumatic childhood, and not just lip service, like actual flashbacks, which is maybe the most horrific part of the movie, other than skinning an eel, which is actually more fun than horrific. But I was like, ooh, this is a little lively to start the movie with.
A false excitement for me to be like, oh, this could get like kind of juicy and weird and whatever, but then it kind of drops all that.
That's the only bit of that, right? And that, like, I'm gonna put a pin in that because I want to come back to talking about Stephen Frears and horror. But you get that bit of like her father was abusive, both seemingly mentally and physically and sexually. The implication is there, but the film isn't very interested in delving into that. And you even get like a line sort of towards it where she's talking to Jekyll and she's like, I believe he became a different person when he drank, and Dr. Jekyll's like, oh, like his personality changed, and she's like, no, physically a different person. And that's interesting. Is it ever explored? No, not really. And you even get a possible moment of confrontation with her and Michael. And Michael Gambone's fine in this movie. He's also a little underplaying it, but I think he's giving back what he's being given by everybody. He's also far removed from the rest of the cast for most of the movie. So you even get a chance for there to be like a confrontation, and it doesn't matter. Like, it unfortunately there is no satisfactory dramatic payoff to that, and you don't get it through her relationship with Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde or her father, and that's really frustrating. And like I said, with Malkovich being "Go on, girl, give me nothing" as Dr. Jekyll, and then being like the most heightened version of Velmont from Dangerous Liaisons as Mr. Hyde, it gives her nothing to play off with too. So like I said, I don't want to fully be like poo-poo Julie Roberts, but you're right. She's kind of just doesn't have any business being in this movie, and maybe somebody closer to her should have been. I can see Winona. I still think Winona Ryder dodged a bullet, but I can see her in this role at least.
Of course. Yes. Yeah, the thing is, I mean, like, on top of everything, just the accent work is so all over the place. Like, sometimes she sounds Irish, sometimes she sounds Southern. Sometimes it verges into like Australian. Like, it really is something different from scene to scene.
At what point do you think, like, would it have been a week into filming? Would it have been a couple days? Do you think somebody should have been like, let's not do it. Let's just have you speak with an American accent.
Let's just do what we did in Dangerous Liaisons and have people speak how they normally speak.
Yeah,
and
let's just have a little fun and drop the accent.
Like, Lord knows that's what John Malkovich is doing. He's just using his voice.
Though I do wonder, and this is just a particular, and maybe I'm being too mean to Malkovich, but I really like him as well. Do you think he like reads a script and every couple pages he's like, I'm going to pronounce one word really weird? And so like in this movie, he's like, make sure you get every detail. It's like, you can, I know you can say detail, sir. I know you can.
Right. That's just his own unique little Malkovich accent.
And it's great. And normally it works.
Yeah, normally, yes. But there really are so many actresses I could have maybe seen here, like Winona Ryder, like, I mean, even someone like a Kate Winslet or Helena Bonham Carter in this era. Obviously, they both kind of read as intelligent and sharp, but at least they could have been more authentically like from that area at the very least. And
the advantage you get with Winslet, maybe not with Helena Bonham Carter, but she still could have pulled this off, but with Winslet is age. And that's the other thing that blew me away is when her first scene with Glenn Close, and I think she says, and this might be misquoting, she's not even 18 yet, or that she's just 18. And I was like, girl, no. Like, Julie Roberts hasn't looked 18 since Pretty Woman. Like, she didn't look 18 in Pretty Woman.
Even then,
like,
right.
Yeah. So like, yeah, it's one of those, I don't know. It's that bit's confusing to me. Like, don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining.
Yeah. It's a little bit like Norma Shearer playing Juliet at the age of 36.
Yeah.
That's my old Hollywood shout out for today.
I love an old Hollywood shout out, but I also always think of the much maligned, very short-lived run of Orlando Bloom playing Romeo on Broadway in the like mid 2000s. It's like, yeah,
sure. What the
sure,
hell?
sure, Orlando Bloom.
Right. But anyway, with all that said, thank God for Glenn. The minute she arrives on scene, it's like suddenly I am awake and I see the potential fun and the campiness that could be had here with this story, which is so self-serious for so much of it.
Yes.
And yeah, just playing with this like almost Cockney accent at times and this caked on white makeup.
Yes.
And fabulous dress by Consolata Boyle. And she's just so funny the way she is just playing this like hard scrabble woman who gives men the business if they cross her. But like there's that wit and that sense of humor that is, again, desperately needed here. And I love how she just barely gives Mary Reilly the time of day. Like she has no time to be sweet or courteous with her. She has no patience for Mary's kind of like demure, good girl sensibility, you know? And it feels like she's like cutting through the properness and the like humorless quality of Mary and of Dr. Jekyll and being like, I'm done cleaning up after you. Like, I'm done helping you with these little tasks. I have a brothel to run. I have my clients like Kieran Hines who shows up for one scene and they just have this great little dynamic. But yeah, I mean, she is really turning it up to 11 and is playing it almost like she's in like this broad British sitcom.
Yeah.
in certain ways, which again, it really needs any kind of energy like that to help propel this forward.
She really is doing the like Carry On Mary Reilly version of this. But it's true. Yeah. It does feel like she was like sitting beside the camera and was like, hand me a tiny hat. I'm going to go ruin everyone's lives. Like
pretty much.
And she like, she does. She like really bursts. Like with the first time you see her, it's like bursting into the film. You're right. It like really livens it up for the few moments she's in. And I feel like I should have just rewatched her scenes, but it's awfully hard to rewind Tubi. And
I think there's a few clips on YouTube.
Oh yeah, there definitely is. There,
yeah.
I'm sure somebody has made that Glenn Close montage, and but she's so good, and she does have, and I think on a serious note, I mean by that I'm the one who's joking, not you. You're quite good at this. On a serious note, like I think part of it is like she's playing a woman who's really lived a life and she's living in a society that doesn't appreciate a female business owner, and she's living in a society that doesn't give her the respect that she has really fought for. And I think when she sees somebody like Mary, she's like, I know 1 billion girls like you. So many girls like exactly like you have come and passed through these walls and either they're still here, or they've left, or they're dead. And like I've had to close that part of myself off in order to be a businesswoman in a capitalistic society who's really trying just to survive. And I think that's what's made her so hard and made her be able to be like, actually, I'm going to show up to Dr. Jekyll's house and give him the business and tell him like, no, I'm doing something and my life can no longer be intertwined with yours. And if you want it to be intertwined with yours, it's going to cost you. It's going to be a bit more because I figured some things out that you clearly don't want out in the world. And so, you know, and obviously that leads to her downfall, but I like the fact that she drills down into this harder woman who also does, like you said, deal with a lot of this with a sense of humor about it too. Like she realizes that like there aren't as many people in her position. And if she's to hold that power, she also not only has to be tough, but she has to be likable or jovial enough that people can still get along with her. She's not like a completely calloused off, but she does have, she has barriers and part of them are humor and part of them are toughness. She's had to be her own man for a very long time.
Yeah. And we get all of that from like 3 or 4 scenes.
Right.
I just want to emphasize how much heavy lifting she is doing here.
and
to make this a real character. Yeah.
And that's in real contrast, once again, to a movie filled with flashbacks and reasoning as to why Mary Reilly is the way she is, and
Exactly.
we don't get it.
Yeah. And I mean, speaking to your point, like, you know, seeing thousands of girls like her that very first scene is when Mary is delivering this letter on behalf of Dr. Jekyll, kind of requiring her services for something of his. And then she says, like, her first line is, "Strictly speaking, I have no vacancies at the moment, but perhaps we can make an arrangement."
Exactly. And what a beautiful first line. Yeah.
Right? You immediately know who this person is and their kind of feelings on how this all works, and feeling like, oh, I know exactly who you are, immediately before she even says a word. And yeah, just an incredible look, an incredible sensibility. Her version of smiling is basically like opening her mouth and like baring her teeth.
Yeah.
like yes, it's so funny. But yeah, like the back and forth with Kieran Hines too, I'm just like, wait, can we actually like follow her now? Like, I'm actually more interested in what this dynamic is than anything I've previously seen up to this point. So,
and once again, just to reemphasize, like, none of this is done with flashbacks. None of this is done with like any sort of like flowery like vision of her as a youth and like what got her into this business. And I'm sure Glenn herself thought of all those things because, like you said, she comes from the theater. I'm sure she does a lot of background work and a lot of like, this is why she is who she is and whatnot. And I'm like miming, writing down as though any like Glenn with a fucking quill is like dipping it in ink. And but
she's got her little highlighter and yeah, she's got her notes. She prepares. An actor prepares.
An actor prepares, exactly. And so I think it's just a really like, even though it is a heightened performance, it is a lived-in performance, and that heightenedness comes from, like we were saying, defense mechanisms and whatnot.
Right, totally.
This like ability to survive, and Mary Reilly herself doesn't have these survival instincts. Clearly, I mean, it's frustrating because she is given such a tragic backstory, but you're never led to believe that she's learned that much from it because she's just repeating the same sort of patterns. I guess once again, it's sort of guesswork because none of it is actually interesting enough to like, it's because it's all so spelled out that you're just like, I guess that's what she's doing. Sure. You don't connect with that character.
I don't know about you, but I find Mary Reilly to be a very frustrating character.
Yeah.
And I do not think that we are supposed to feel that way.
No.
Personally. Like, she seems like, it's again that thing of Julia just seems smarter than the character, so there's just a cognitive dissonance for me as I'm watching her. I'm just like, you know better than this, Julia Roberts. Like, come on.
And the character itself should have this like dramatic heroineness. Like, there's so many points in the movie where you want her to. It's like you have agency. Like you have the ability to get out of this situation. There's other and like, I hate. You get a movie that you get, and like there's no use in like rewriting it in your mind to make it better, I suppose. But I just kept being like, where is the like tension? Should there be another person in her life giving her an example of like what that things could be better, and that she doesn't. Like I said, I truly didn't understand what drew her to Dr. Jekyll, and like I get the like Mr. Hyde stuff, I suppose, even though he's like real, like he literally introduces himself by, well, the first time they actually have a full conversation by grabbing her breasts, and so I was kind of like, like, come on, guy, because they do have a scene before that where she's like hiding under a table and he's like on top of the table, and I thought that was at least a little fun. But but yeah, I just didn't understand her character motivations. There's nothing that connects me to this little girl trapped in a cupboard being bitten by rats, who like wanted to escape that situation, and I struggle with that, with dealing with that. So when you finally do get to the end of this movie and she like walks away, I don't understand that ending, because I'm like, what is she walking away into? Another situation like this? Like another, like,
right, exactly.
I don't believe this person has been changed for the better.
She certainly hasn't been changed for good.
No.
So
thank you for picking up. I was like, yeah, serving them up.
Yeah. Maybe this would have been better as a musical.
Maybe. I have. Did you see Jekyll and Hyde, the musical? Have you?
Well, no, but
Okay.
still.
Except for the song "Bring On the Men," nothing is memorable from that.
Say no more. Well, again, like I only want to talk about Glenn here personally because I just find so little interest in everything else.
I'm very good at diverting to everything else because there is so few scenes of Glenn herself. But you're right. We did come here.
I appreciate you for filling that in for us. But Glenn's next scene is when Mary is once again delivering another letter on behalf of Jekyll, and Faraday is now just furious and very curt with her and is showing her this like bloody massacre in one of the rooms that was done by Mr. Hyde that has like this huge dead rodent on the bed too.
Yeah.
Which is quite a sight. And
you've got to make sure that you bring up Mary's trauma every chance you get. So there has to be trauma. Thank you, Jamie Lee.
Yes. Generational trauma. Yes, all of that. But yeah, Mary is horrified. And I do love Glenn's kind of ferocity in that scene, just fully angered that she has to keep cleaning up these messes for Jekyll/Hyde without ever really, like, he's never actually showing up himself as Jekyll and always making Mary be the messenger. I adore Glenn's line reading when Mary looks at the ceiling, which is like all stained with blood.
Yeah.
And Glenn just deadpans, "Don't even ask." It's so funny. And again, like she's injecting so much life into this.
Can I just say too that I think the reason Jekyll never goes himself is because Glenn Close's character would take one look at him and be like, "You're the same." yeah,
right, exactly.
Like you're wearing contacts. like that would be like,
I know what you are.
Yeah, exactly. different haircut. Like that's it. Like
yeah.
That scene itself is. Maybe I'll pull the pin on it now. I would.
Sure.
Stephen Frears in horror, it just doesn't seem to work. I do want to save just a tiny bit for her third scene because that is maybe the more like supposed to be the horrific shock of. But there's nothing. Perhaps it's as like a teen in an early 20-something. I worked at both a scary wax museum and its sister business, a haunted house, and that feels the most like just cheap haunted house, like a scene, a room that's just filled with blood, and it's supposed to be horrific and unsightly, and it's just like I don't know, like what am I getting out of this, Stephen Frears? Am I supposed to be like, oh my god? So like it's comical, like it's the amount of blood that's in that room. It actually makes me feel like Glenn Close is bad at her job, that Faraday is not good at her job, that she's like, wow, just this much blood everywhere, and I haven't brought anyone to like check in on it or anything. Like,
right,
had to be some screaming going on, you would think. Like, I don't know, that part I was like, this is silly. Like this bit of business that you're giving poor Glenn Close is very silly.
Yeah, I almost wonder if we could have benefited from, and I'm not someone who's advocating for having to see that kind of violence, but like something a little more extreme to give us the horror.
Yeah, so some context, something to make it make sense, because it does just, it feels like cheap haunted house fare. Like it's just like, oh, there's blood on the ceiling too. Oh my god! Like,
don't even ask.
Yeah, exactly. And
I guess we don't have to address it then.
I was gonna say, thank God she's there to diffuse the situation, because it's the only thing that like gives it any oomph is her like comedic, like, you know, and it feels like it implies that she's seen that before too, like, blood on the ceiling again.
Again. Yeah. It's also just that I made a note of Julia's very goofy line reading when she's going back to Jekyll and being like, I saw the room. There was blood on the ceiling. Just, again, like, so goofy. Like, I God bless her. She's trying her best. But
you're telling me she didn't sell that for you, Kevin? She didn't.
Not winning this acting challenge.
Yeah, exactly.
But Jekyll does kind of like assure her that like, oh, it's just Hyde was doing some experiment there, and like the patient had lost too much blood already. Some cockamamie story, and is also kind of an interesting way dismissing Faraday as just like, she's just a woman of ill repute and someone who exaggerates or whatever, which there's something there, but
As RuPaul would say, judging her, you might have been playing a messenger, but your line delivery was lost in the mail.
wow.
That's what I'm here for, folks.
Very
you.
good.
Thank you.
Yes.
I will be exiting the podcast.
Mary Reilly is sashaying away,
yes.
unfortunately. But I think we should get to her third scene.
Yes.
Her climactic scene of coming to Jekyll's house being like, she's mad as hell. She's sassing Mary some more and is demanding to see Jekyll. And when Glenn and John Malkovich come face to face, my heart swells briefly because it's like, oh, we're back.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's very brief ultimately, but I just love their back and forth and being like, he'll be a minute before attending to her. And then she's like, don't be too long. It ain't very festive down here, because she's in the little lab. She's the laboratory, as
she's
Malkovich says.
The surgery theater, which, by the way,
Yes.
And I don't need full explanations for every bit. Like, obviously, Dr. Jekyll is a wealthy man, but to have a full surgery theater, like a multiple seat surgery theater that's just not being used, is wild. Like,
it came with the house.
Exactly. Yeah, that episode of House Hunters was crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Mary's kind of like saying that, Hyde was going to go get some tea for them. And Jekyll's like, cancel the tea.
Yes.
to which Faraday goes, hold your horses, I'm parched.
So
which is
good.
Another great line reading.
Yeah.
Yes. And he's like, I'll prepare something stronger. And she's like, have it your own way. Which, unfortunately, famous last words.
So, just trying to suss out the logic of this scene, because the prior scene to this, we had Mr. Hyde doing actually maybe the best bit of comedy in the movie, which is him going through the door and being like, what's that, Dr. Jekyll? You want some tea?
Right.
to no one. Exactly. I was like, okay, we've officially entered silly, and unfortunately the rest of the movie never catches up to silly. But then, so logically, we're expected to believe he was Mr. Hyde. He transferred back into Dr. Jekyll. And then because he knew he wasn't going to be able to, because what we're also led to believe, and I have read the novella before as well, but what we're led to believe is that he's very aware of Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde's deeds when he's transformed, and vice versa, that because he's not prepared to deal with Glenn Close's character, he either A, takes more serum, which is implied by the I'll fix you something stronger, to become Hyde again almost immediately, or because, as he mentions later in the film, that he no longer needs the serum to transform, he just transforms into Mr. Hyde to deal with her. So Dr. Jekyll willingly sentences Glenn Close's character Faraday to her death, regardless of. So we're also never at any point, which I think is sort of the point of the novella as well too, is that we're never led at any point to believe that Dr. Jekyll is a good person either, that there is no good side or bad side. It's all one side. It's just one is more or less inhibited than the other. And maybe that's me reading too psychologically deep into that, but I was very confused because it's very clear that Hyde is the one who dispatches with Faraday. And so I don't know. Did you get any sort of read? What are we supposed to learn from that?
Well, it's very difficult because of the perspective of this being from Mary Reilly. So she is completely in the dark still by that point in the film, I think. Yeah, it takes her a very long time to finally put the pieces together.
Yeah, I even think Frears is implying that too, but we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, you're right. I think she's completely unaware.
Right. I mean, yes, I think that is definitely the point. It is a little bit of the Frankenstein thing of who's the real monster, that sort of thing.
Which, by the way, and I did mostly like Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, but literally do not have a character say, you're the real monster, Dr. Frankenstein. I don't need that. I don't need someone to say it out loud. That is literally the point of all versions. I get it
now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, thank God you spelled it out for me.
Yes.
But please
so
continue.
Helpful. Yes. But no, I think it is very it just feels like the film doesn't fully engage with what you're talking about there of that duality and exploring those things. it just kind of sits there for me. So it's hard to really engage with it.
And that's why I'm like, mentally, am I having to do the work of being like, is Mary Reilly so naive as to actually believe her father became a different person when he drank, or that he was the same person, and so she's once again just repeating these cycles, but the movie's not doing anything to try to imply that's what it's about to me. Like,
yeah. There needs to be like a little bit more connective tissue.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I need to be fully handheld, per se.
Right,
but
exactly. Once again, don't need a character to say you're the real monster, Mr. Hyde. But I need some, or Dr. Jekyll in this case.
Yeah.
But I need something to like put the pieces together. Like, watching this movie frustratingly feels like getting to the end of a puzzle and realizing you're like missing 2 pieces or 3 pieces and just being like, what is happening here? I do, like you said, I think one of those pieces is performances. I truly don't know what Stephen Frears was doing in directing his actors. But I also, like, as much as I hate to say it because I do like Christopher Hampton, I do think it's also in the script. But he also had trouble, like, didn't you say something like 26 drafts or something? Like a crazy amount of drafts that you just at some point realized like the soul was sucked out of this.
Yeah, it just kind of was increasingly diluted with each passing director and draft and everything, and now we got this. And it's like, well, this is kind of a shell of what it probably looked like to start with.
But as you were saying, back to Glenn, like Glenn is clearly having fun and clearly getting to deliver. And there is that beautiful like close up of her in the operating theater where she's like, after she's like the hold on, I'm feeling potched, like that, like once again that snarl, that like almost like bearing fangs, almost like an angry dog, like and part of that is going back to what we were saying earlier about like she's a person who has had to be tough and had to live hard, and she's not pussyfooting around with Dr. Jekyll anymore. She's like, this is the way things are gonna go, and obviously it doesn't end well for her, but she feels like, okay, like I've got to put up the defenses because clearly he's not going to listen to me the way things have been going.
Yeah. And I think in her performance, everything you said there is very intentional, what she's doing, that defense mechanism, that the fact that she is like baring her teeth in that way that is a little bit frightening, perhaps, is completely like keeping within the tone of what she thinks the movie they're making is. What it should be, but
I think there's other things that are contributing to that as well too. You mentioned the costumes earlier, and I talked about the beginning of the scene where she enters the house and sort of turns 3/4. Like that outfit is so smart too, because she's only dressed in black in this movie, but it feels very, which also, by the way, I didn't even think about to this moment, but like being Victorian era, like Edwardian sort of, she could have that could also mean that at one point maybe she was married and maybe she's in mourning and has been in mourning for, regardless. That's an extrapolation, because that's often why women would wear black and then they would be stuck in black for most of their lives, because they'd either be mourning their husband or children that they lost. And but it's very businessy on top, but it's still very feminine. It's still, like I mentioned, it highlights her body. It's very flattering. And so I like that, because it gives her both a very striking look for a woman in that era to be like coming to a man's house alone and confronting him alone. It like adds to the power of her character, and I think that's sort of a fascinating thing. Once again, like a really good performance highlights all of the other stuff that goes into that performance.
That's true. No, it's true. But yeah, sadly, that is the end. So he ends up decapitating her.
Somehow.
We don't see the action itself of that, but we do see like the back of her severed head as Hyde is like holding it and kind of playing with it. And so a very untimely end for our girl, but
and
she slayed,
She did slay, and then she was slayed. And that's the decapitation.
Yes.
I feel like that cut was not clean, so I guess the implication is that he just literally tore her head off. But B, the fact that we're not shown the face, and like, hey, maybe the prop wasn't great, maybe it wasn't a good likeness of Glenn. She's my good friend, so I can just call her Glenn. And and so that's maybe why. But B, and this is my final this is my triptych of Stephen Frears doesn't really understand horror, is that I think that scene is supposed to be shocking. And I think that it's supposed to be oh my God, I can't believe he did that. But it's literally the word cowardly is coming to mind, but I don't mean cowardly. It's the lamest version of showing us that by it's Mary coming into the room, not seeing Faraday, leaving the room. And as she exits, you see Hyde's hands holding the head, not facing the audience, above her, sort of lifting it up. And I think it's supposed to be unsettling, but it doesn't. None of those things are communicated in the direction of the scene, the cinematography of the scene. It just doesn't work, and it's the worst sort of pantomime-y, ooh, aren't you scared of that I've seen in a movie in a long time, and that's really frustrating. And says to me, Frears was clearly the wrong person to try and pull off the terror that we're supposed to be experiencing in this film, because Hyde is a murderer and he is supposed to be scary, and we're supposed to worry about Mary in this budding attraction to him that she will just become another victim, and doesn't communicate that, doesn't make me, I'm like, oh, he's holding a prop head. And so, hey, maybe there was a longer version of this that ended up on an editing room floor. Maybe there was something more graphic. And once again, it doesn't even have to be graphic. It just has to be more shocking. And it's not shocking at that point in the movie. It's other than to make you feel sad that Glenn Close won't be showing up in the film anymore.
Yeah, I think he just pulls so many punches ultimately, and it just does not have... I don't think he's engaging at all with the horror of it all very much. He doesn't seem actively interested in making a horror romantic drama. It's just kind of a romantic drama, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But, and it's not really all that romantic because they have no chemistry, quite frankly.
None whatsoever.
But anyway, naturally from there, I do lose interest. But it is, a lot of back and forth with Mary dealing with Jekyll and Hyde, still not making the connection and being gaslit that she's eventually in the middle of a murder investigation and is questioned for what she knows about the whereabouts of Hyde during this, the murder of a member of parliament, I guess. And she ends up protecting Hyde after he kind of pulls her into an alley and they have a kiss.
Yeah.
I don't think that's particularly well explored, but she ultimately, for me, just ends up looking just lost and confused, and not in a way that I find all that sympathetic ultimately, despite what she's been through.
Yeah.
Despite what she's been through, and she's still singing, to quote that meme. It's just I don't feel any connection to Mary Reilly, and I'm supposed to.
Well, and especially if this is an empowerment narrative, and I'm not saying it has to be, but the implication by naming it Mary Reilly and by forcing it to be from her perspective, you expect some change. A story is about change. Anything. And going back to what I said earlier about the fact that she gets to walk away in the movie from the end of the movie, and there's nothing to lead me to believe that she's learned anything, or other than, wow, some spooky shit really happened to me, and that's about it. The fact that and actually, at some point, I was really expecting there to be not that there needs to be this in every horror movie, but there's kind of that moment in most slashers where a character stumbles across the bodies of their friends or something, and I expected her to find Faraday's body at some point but she literally encounters very little of Hyde's actual darkness, of the capabilities of his monstrosity, and so. Then we're kind of left with what did she learn? What did we learn as an audience? And ultimately it feels very moot and very pointless. And so you get to the end of the movie and you're kind of sure, I guess that's a thing I just watched. And so I understand why it didn't connect with an audience. I understand why it's considered a failure, because there's just no there, unfortunately. Besides a couple good performances by, actors and a couple misguided performances by other actors. And some beautiful costumes and sets. Though I didn't even think the sets were that great. I'll be perfectly honest. If I'm shitting on things like I was the house looked nice, operating theater, the streets of London. I've seen that before.
Yeah, but great gowns, beautiful gowns.
Beautiful gowns. Oh, I did want to say, by the way, not that I haven't talked enough, but something back in the idea of Stephen Frears not understanding the horror of it. Also, like you said earlier, this is Mary Reilly's perspective. And by showing us just the head of Faraday from behind, he's trying to keep that perspective. But that also necessarily doesn't work because she never does find out what happened to Faraday. She can only surmise what happened to Faraday. So like that actually feels a bit out of context, because even with the death of Kieran Hines, she's told about it. And so then we get to picture it because it is from her perspective. But because she learns so little and knows so little throughout the movie, that the showing us Faraday's head almost even feels like cheating. Not that I would want to remove one of the very few elements of horror from the film, but it's an element that doesn't work that well on multiple levels.
Yeah, it's just one frustrating scene after another for me. And, you know, even when we get to that reveal moment, finally, where she's realizing the truth, there's this exchange of dialogue that I truly could not believe they had to say, which is Dr. Jekyll, I think, either him, it must be Jekyll, saying, "I kept thinking you must know we were the same man." And she says, "How could anyone know such a thing? How could anyone possibly guess?" And I'm like, girl, I'm sorry. Are you blind? Like, what's happening here?
She says, "But Clark, you wear those glasses when you're at work. How could I ever know you're Superman?"
Yeah, it's just a different hairstyle and a slightly more swaggery feeling with Hyde.
Exactly.
That's literally the only difference.
And also, you know, I think Daniel Day-Lewis would have picked a lot of different things, obviously, than John Malkovich did. And once again, I really like John Malkovich, so I'm not trying, but he has such a distinctive way of speaking, as I mentioned earlier, that it's one of those things where it's really hard to be like, you couldn't even tell just by listening to him. You couldn't tell that, like, he's doing this, like, weird accent that literally nobody else on Earth has.
Mm-hmm. That's the issue when you have John Malkovich, is like there's not a lot of transformation happening here.
Exactly.
Which is kind of the whole point here.
Yeah. Which is wild that you have that crazy transformation scene at the end where a baby grows out of his chest, because
let's talk about that.
Well, let's unpack that. But I think part of that is and I guess originally I did do my research because I love to research. I guess
Mama, let's research.
Yeah, Mama, let's research. That's me all the time. You have no idea. I would have made an amazing perpetual student. I just could never afford it.
But well, you've come to the right place. This is a place for recovering gifted students.
We've come to this place for suffering long hours of just reading shit.
Yes.
Originally, they'd hired the Jim Henson Workshop, and this was like going to be Jim Henson Workshop's first really foray into non-puppet work, and I guess it just didn't work out. And it didn't look right on camera. So instead they went with the most 90s CG possible. But part of my personal theory is that because there is very little transformation between Malkovich and Malkovich, I think they thought that they had to come up with something really extreme. I also think when you're doing a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde movie, there is like an emphasis. It's the werewolf transformation thing. It's like you have to come up with a new and interesting way to do it, and that's the audience really like. How are they going to do it this time? I just think, along with many other bad decisions in this movie, it was also a bad decision. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know why it has to look like, what's his face from Total Recall, like Quado coming out of his stomach being like Quaid. I don't know why it has to be that, but that's what we got in this movie. Thoughts?
Yeah. Thoughts, concerns? Yes. Well, to give context for that scene, that's when he's kind of injecting himself again, and is like nearly turning himself into like a Monstro Elizasu through that whole visual effect. Yeah. Lots of like things protruding. But yeah, when he's like turning back into Jekyll, and that's where Jekyll reveals that Hyde injected them with the poison. I'm using them as to say the both of them as a way to kind of like set her free, I suppose.
Yeah.
I said something about how like it was inevitable from the moment I found how to achieve what I always wanted, something like that, which isn't quite as snappy as like it was beyond my control from Dangerous Liaisons, but it's kind of the same general idea, is that like I knew I wanted you, but I knew that you have no business being with me, in a manner of speaking.
But in a movie in which nothing has led us to believe that there's and right. Is it not and like doesn't that even sort of diminish the idea that like Dr. Jekyll destroys himself for the greater good by centering it on one person and one relationship, instead of being like, oh, I'm harming so many people. I like the Hyde is a detriment to society itself. I must destroy Hyde. It becomes more about like, oh, I need to protect this one person who I'm maybe like as friends. Like I sent her a note once that said, if you like me, circle this, and hoped I got it back, and she never returned it.
Yeah. It's muddled.
It's very muddled.
Put it mildly. Yes. So I guess, they do have their little tragic goodbyes, which I don't find very affecting much at all, because once again, they have zero chemistry, and I'm not invested in their relationship as much as it is.
I did read one fact about this that I thought was really funny, because it's one of those things that you never hear about in Hollywood, and the fact that like Stephen Frears was very insistent they keep the ending that it currently has, because he found it the most dramatic and the most tragic sort of. And it did not test well, and the studio took it away from him, re-edited the movie. That did also not test well, they basically were like,
worse, perhaps.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess we'll do the original one. Yeah,
we'll do it, and that never happens.
If
a movie is taken away from a director, usually it stays taken away, and they were like, in the end, I guess Frears wins this round.
Right. They just kind of shrugged and were like, I guess we'll just go with the least bad one.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And she walks off into the moonlight, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And who knows where she goes from there? Who cares where she goes from there, quite honestly. Exactly. I just don't even really am not invested in her story.
Oh, so you're not going to read my spec script for Mary Reilly too, the Rileying?
Whoa.
Yeah.
Well, I'm intrigued.
I thought that's why we were here, Kevin. Fine.
Soft launch. Yes. Well, I'm interested in what your synopsis would be, your log line for that. But maybe it's just a nice moment of like a self-actualizing, like an unmarried woman kind of thing.
Right. But my like poster quote would be, she's no longer hiding, with a Y. And I think that would really sell it.
Wow. Look at you. Throwing money at the screen as we speak.
Absolutely.
I did briefly think, though, now that we're at the end here, imagine if this movie had Michelle Pfeiffer in this role. Yeah. And we just did a full Dangerous Liaisons reunion. So that it's more of Michelle Pfeiffer kind of like powerless in the wake of John Malkovich.
Yeah.
Like she is in that movie. I think it would be more convincing than what Juliet's doing.
I think the performance would be light years. Absolutely. I think she could less pull off Just 18. but
sure.
but no, I mean, I love Michelle Pfeiffer. I think she's a great actress, especially when given great material. And I think, especially thinking about particularly her character in Dangerous Liaisons and having to play both that innocence and that sort of shrinking flower, I think she could have pulled it off, but giving it like a little more layers. I would watch that. I'm sure it would also maybe not be great, but at least I'd be getting more. And she's somebody who we know can also do bigger, and I think that's maybe one thing that we didn't talk. And once, I know this is a Glenn Close podcast, but like I've never seen Julia Roberts give a really big performance. I think the closest we've gotten is maybe Tinkerbell and Hook, not to bring it back to another Glenn Close film,
sure.
but like that's still kind of very surfacey, and I think that the Fifes would have maybe given it something more for the audience to latch on to.
The Fifes.
very good friends with her too. So
I guess so. Jeez, you have your own little
these
cute
women
nickname.
don't know it, but I
It's
am
very parasocial.
yes, absolutely.
Dangerously so, perhaps.
Oh yes.
So anyway, that's Mary Reilly. Any other stray observations or tangents you wanted to go on before we get to the release?
I think we got to bring back little hats and veils, and honestly, I think it's
Wow.
for me specifically.
Yeah,
I think I would look great in a tiny hat and a veil.
I think so. And I think I need to dress as Mrs. Faraday for Halloween next year.
You do, but let me tell you, you're gonna spend about I generously I'll say 10 minutes in that corset before you're like, get me the fuck out of this. I can't breathe.
Yes, and I will finally understand the Victorian woman's experience.
Yes, and all of the broken ribs.
Yes. Well, let's get to the release of Mary Reilly. So this film was released by Sony on February 23rd, 1996. This is Glenn's first of 3 movies to come out in 96. And it was a box office bomb.
What?
So,
gasp.
Yes. Can you believe it? Made $5.7 million in total at the domestic box office. Internationally, it made about $7 million more. So definitely not a success. Not a lot of interest in this, but the opening weekend was a wide release, and it came in number 8 that weekend with just 2.8 million. So to transport us back to 96, Gavin, let's travel back and reveal some of the movies that did better than Mary Reilly that weekend, including Before and After.
Excellent.
City Hall.
City Hall is a movie I think I've seen.
Nice. Well, Mr. Holland's Opus, Happy Gilmore, Muppet Treasure Island. Shout out to that.
Yeah.
Broken Arrow.
Broken Arrow. Amazing, I guess. I don't know. I've seen that movie, I guess, as well.
Amazing, I guess. And the number 1 movie at the box office that weekend, Rumble in the Bronx. Jackie Chan's big breakthrough in America. Yes.
I don't think I ever realized that movie. I mean, I knew it was a hit, but I didn't realize it was that big of a hit that it came in number 1. That's impressive.
To be fair, this was a very weak weekend at the box office, but yes, it did not great. And if there was any hope for Mary Reilly to get Frears and Hampton that award success they had with Dangerous Liaisons, they were quickly dashed. The only major recognition that they got was from the Razzie Awards, which nominated Julia Roberts for Worst Actress and Stephen Frears for Worst Director. So,
first of all, hilarious that this is the stuff that the Razzies were paying attention to back in 1996, because nowadays I feel like it's not this sort of movie, but right. Also be dissolved to fund the Razzies, whatever. I know we literally just spent a bunch of time talking about how the direction was bad and Julia Roberts was not good, but also no, get rid of them.
Yes, we do not need them in the year of our Lord 2025.
Absolutely not.
Lord knows we never really did, but anyway.
True. But we were a much meaner society back then. Luckily, everything's utopian now. And
everything's fine. Yeah. No worries. Flying cars. So Julia lost that award to another big tabloid darling, Demi Moore, for Striptease and The Juror. So
I don't even think I remember Demi Moore was in The Juror, but
she was the rural juror.
She was.
But pretty rough. Anyway, any thoughts on why we think Mary Reilly just failed to connect with anyone, critics, audiences, awards? I mean, we already talked about a lot of why it has fundamental problems, but
I truly think on a surface level, I mean, everything that we've said before, but on a surface level, it's just it's not a very effective horror movie, and people do I think. I remember when this movie was being advertised, it was being advertised as a horror movie, and along the lines of something like Bram Stoker's Dracula. And Bram Stoker's Dracula has horrific moments in it. It's like a kind of Fantasia fever dream of a movie, and this doesn't have any of that. So I think either way that you try and advertise it as a doomed gothic romance or an adult or a teen horror, it just doesn't work. And I think critics very clearly saw through that. Obviously the word of mouth was already bad. It'd been in the trades many times about how badly the production was going to, and I hate when people hold salaries against people, but like I know Julia Roberts was making a ton of money off of this at the time too, and so I think people grossly held that against her as well, which they shouldn't.
Yes.
Like I don't think that's. I think the only time is when it comes out that she's getting paid like $20 million to do After the Hunt. I think that's when it's like, okay, what are we doing here? But
Sure.
like, yeah, this was a big budget, big Hollywood movie that she deserved to get paid for. But I think it was just a combination of things that critics were already against it before it even came out, and then they saw it and were like, oh, we were right. And then audiences weren't getting what they were promised.
Yeah. I guess it's like trying to do those different things. It's trying to do the horror. It's trying to do the romantic drama. I guess it's released around Valentine's Day, sort of.
How foolish.
So, yes, that it just doesn't really end up pleasing anybody because it's not really even highbrow. It's not really like entertainment, crowd pleasing even. So it's just pulling its punches, like I said, in so many different directions that it just couldn't really connect. And I do think the diluting of the script and the different changing directors probably had an impact on that. But to your point, I do think the hype of Julia Roberts in this movie, that is such a big departure for her. I think it kind of made her kind of ripe for people attacking this movie, rightfully or not, based on the results. It still felt like a little bit sexist 90s behavior.
Yeah,
was part of it.
And like, listen, love to be an armchair critic, but it also is like, I every now and then I worry that I've become that person who's like watching a YouTube video of somebody like failing to do a pole vault and being like, why couldn't they do that? Like I could do that, and clearly I can't. And so, but you're right. I do think part of it is the idea that like she was trying something different. She was working outside. She was trying to grow as a performer, but like, in order to grow as a performer, you also need to be challenged. And like, this was just not the material to challenge any of them, clearly.
Yeah. And it's also just not the kind of movie that people want to see from Julia Roberts in the 90s, quite
also
frankly.
That.
So there you have it. But Glenn, innocent, I think, in all
absolutely.
of this. If you have anything else, we can just go ahead to our last segment.
I would love to enter the last segment. I'm
okay.
Prepared.
All right. Well, we are going to rate Glenn's performance on a specific scale of thinking where this performance sits in her career and what we think of it overall. Would you say that her performance as Mrs. Faraday is such that she's ready for her close-up, one of her best performances, low Glenergy, not one of your favorites, not an essential, or close but no cigar, somewhere in the middle?
So this is definitely not low Glenergy, as we've mentioned many times. No. Like she's one
high
of the
Glenergy.
Yeah, she's one of the few Glenergistic things happening in this movie, and I can't say it's ready for a close up because she, this is so I guess it like has to fit in the middle there, the close but no cigar. But I only say that like in terms of thinking of her career. But honestly, if I had to just think of like performances standing on their own, I would maybe give this a ready for a close-up because once again, she's one of the only good things in this movie. She's one of the reasons to see this movie, and I'm sure there's a YouTube compilation of all 3 or 4 scenes out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so probably close but no cigar, unfortunately. But she is really great, and it's hard for me to say anything negative about that. But like, it truly felt like a breath of fresh every time she showed up. I was like, oh, this is why I'm watching this movie.
Yeah, could not agree more. This is a close but no cigar for me, but more like a high close but no cigar than a low close but no cigar. Like, she's not quite winning the challenge, but she's safe.
Yeah. Somebody blew that cigar smoke in that general direction. but we still didn't get it.
To continue the metaphor. Yes. Yeah. Definitely the best part of this film, but she just doesn't really have the screen time to really count this among her ready for her close-up classics that she'll be remembered for necessarily.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, to her credit, she really does the most in her few scenes to make us understand who this is, where she comes from, how she got here by being so tough and going through all those difficulties. And so would love to have seen more of her, but she really does enliven the film for her short time on screen. Maybe she's acting in a different film than everyone else, but that is the film that I would prefer to be watching. So
Yeah, I hope if someday somebody asks her about this movie and what went wrong, she just responds with, "Don't even ask."
Don't even ask. Yeah, so anyway, this is the first of her 3 Glenn being silly movies of 96. Soon we will be talking about 101 Dalmatians and Mars
Yes.
Attacks. But Gavin, I so
Beautiful
appreciate
work.
you for helping me kick off this fun year of Glenn with me. This was such a blast.
Thank you so much, Kevin. I'm first of all so happy to have been invited on. I'm a big fan, and I love all the work you're doing. And I'm not. I know you're big on awards. I'm not even an awards person, but I appreciate all the work that you're doing in that area because it makes me feel less crazy. And so thank you for that.
Jeez.
No, I really appreciate it, and I think you're doing good work. So keep up the good work.
Yeah, well, you're doing great work yourself. I am loving the Q Division, which you're hosting with my good friend Chelsea. So, yeah, where could people find more of you and your work on the internet?
If you want to find my personal stuff, like I said, I'm an editor by trade. I work in TV and film. I just edited a short film. Well, I edited a short film last year. It's just gotten into a couple festivals, actually heading to one of those festivals next week in Rochester, the Anomaly Film Festival, which is a great little indie festival out there that I've loved for a long time. So I'm very happy to have a short in there. But if you want to find me, you can find me on Blue Sky at it's Gavin. That's SHHGAVIN. You can follow my Instagram, I guess, if you really want that. It's at Gavin Mev, which is GAVINMEV. And if you want to listen to the 2 shows I co-host, as you mentioned, the Q Division with Chels, both of them are through the Glitter Jaw Queer Podcasting Network. And the Q Division is a James Bond rewatch podcast. We're going through all the James Bond films and eventually branching into some associated films just for fun. We're sort of looking at them through a queer and feminist lens and whatnot, or just even why people watch them, even though a lot of them are very dated and like they're very male-centric and very bro-centric, and we're kind of trying to de-broify them. And Chelsea has never seen any of them. I've seen all of them. I love them growing up, and I'm always curious as to what draws a queer person to something that, for all intents and purposes, should alienate them. And then the Mixed Reviews, which is my long-running baby, which I've been doing for almost 10 years. It's a film podcast. We take a film subject such as an actor, director, mini genre, and we do a whole breakdown of an entire career. And we give you as much info as we can and tell you what we like and what we don't like. We actually did do a Glenn Close episode in 2021, all the way
Great
back.
episode.
Oh, thank you. It was so much fun. I mean, there's so much. I genuinely was like, I must have seen Mary Reilly for that too. Nope, totally skipped it. But we did hit other hits in there. So actual hits, good hits.
Right. Right.
But yeah, and you can find the Mixed Reviews in the Q Division on any podcast platform or app that you listen to podcasts on. So whatever you're listening to this one on right now, when you're done with this episode, it's very important that you continue to listen to Kevin's work, but then go check out the Mixed Reviews and the Q Division.
Yes, and I think it'll be an easy entry point for people who listen to the show, who like Chelsea, to listen to Q Division, and I hope you guys like this episode as well that we just did. And yeah, start off with the Glenn episode for Mixed Reviews, and soon you'll be hooked. So
it's a fun one.
Yes. Alrighty. Well, thank you all so much for listening. You could find me at Kevin_Jacobsen on Twitter and Instagram, just Kevin Jacobsen on Blue Sky. You can also listen to my Oscar-themed podcast, And the Runner-Up Is, for coverage of every single Best Actress race. That's And the Runner-Up Is on all platforms. And to keep up with the world according to Glenn on social, go to The Glenn Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky. Rate, review, and follow The World According to Glenn on all podcast platforms. And with that, I will bid you all adieu.